Hello, you. Welcome to Neighborful at Night. We are here to help you lay down the burdens of this day and get some rest. My name is Michael, and I'm the creator and host of Neighborful Station, a story based meditation podcast set in a small town that's big enough for all of us. We gather tonight in solidarity with our family and dear friends from Minnesota and with everyone else who is confronting injustice in the world right now. Many of us are surrounded by cold, snow, and ice. We are here to remember that no matter how hard this day has been, we are still connected, and that the world we are longing to create together is still possible. So let's take a moment now to get comfy. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels right to you and listen to my voice. Take a deep breath. As you leave behind the hustle of your day, take a moment now to think of someone who brings peace to your heart. This can be someone from your present or your past, someone who is still with us or not. It can even be someone that you don't know personally, but have seen out in the world. Think of how this person inspires you to seek peace in your own life and take another deep breath. Let's widen that circle and think about all of the people in your life who have shown you how to be generous, courageous, and kind. These can be relatives or chosen family. They can be teachers, coaches, mentors, or neighbors. I want you to take 30 seconds right now and remember how these people have formed you with their love. I will keep the time. Thank you, friends. As we close out this meditation, I invite you now to stretch your arms and legs out a little, if that's comfortable for you, and let go of the tensions of the day. Each time we gather for Neighborful at Night, we have a show and tell with people from our community. Sometimes I will be sharing their stories, and sometimes they will be sharing their own. Tonight, I want to tell you about a project called the 50 States Dinner Series, created by my friend Sabina. It's a fun way to gather friends and appreciate some of the best things that America has to offer. Let's listen in as Sabina explains the project.
Hi, I'm Sabina Liebold, and I'm the creator of a project called the 50 States Dinner Series, which is an effort to cook through Gabrielle Langholtz's America the Cookbook by hosting 50 dinner parties, one for each state of our country, with accompanying themed menus and salon style conversations about each place. So there's structure that I've imposed on the evening that is visible to people in terms of there's a menu which I print out for everybody, and they're asked to bring a topic and they're asked to write or draw something at the end of the evening, and there's a group photo and that kind of stuff. Those are very obvious sort of symbols of structure that has been planned. But behind the scenes, I do kind of have some rules for myself about how I want to approach it and how to make it most successful. So there's a couple ones that come to mind. The first is um, we're doing all the states in alphabetical order. That actually came as an idea from a friend of mine who said, if you do the states you're most interested in first, you will probably burn out and not complete the project, which is it's so like practical, but is so true that you're right that if I save all the things I'm excited for, like if I can intersperse the things I'm excited for rather than doing them all up front, um, there's sort of a natural like ebb and flow of the project, right? Plus, well, so it's been interesting to see how going in alphabetical order means that you also get a pretty varied menu from month to month. Um, because it doesn't you're not necessarily going geographically where a lot of the menus are more similar, and sort of it helps to kind of space out the different types of things that you're eating, so that's also helps with keeping it more interesting. I pretty much everything has to be cooked from the book, with the exception of drinks, which some states don't have a designated drink. If there are dietary restrictions I have to plan around, sometimes I do some like supplemental like side modifications, or I look at supplemental recipes for adapting for dietary restrictions. And then what I call a reasonableness modification, which is for things that are prohibitively expensive to be importing to Philadelphia. So things like I'm not going to order $40 a pound Alaskan huckleberries. I am going to go to Costco and get frozen blueberries instead. And everyone can imagine that they are huckleberries. I would love to have infinite money to do this project, but I do not. And so sometimes we use a little bit of imagination, but for the most part, we're sticking very, very close to the recipes that are in the book because that's really the point. In terms of rules around who attends, it's very important to me that I invite people who don't already know each other, as well as I can control for that. Which we have yet to find that two people from separate parts of my life happen to know each other, and I didn't already know it, so that's good. So those three people, usually it'll be like someone from a book club, someone who's a neighbor, somebody who I met through work or something like that. Places that are kind of very disparate from each other. Um, so that's important, and especially when we have friends who are couples. Technically, I will invite one of them, and if they choose to invite the other person of the couple, that's their choice. But they don't have to. So, so it's not like we're inviting a couple together. It's I'm inviting one of you, and you can decide what to do with your plus one. And then, kind of lastly, it's important to me to be considering diversity in the guest list. So uh, often that honestly mostly looks like age diversity. So trying to get a range of different ages of people. I have found that I love creating intergenerational relationships, and I have friends of many different ages, and that's really fun and delightful to me. And a lot of people don't. And so I think, especially for my sort of same age peers, it can be really impactful to them to sort of like introduce them to friends who are their parents' age and sometimes older. And so I think that that's been really, really special. I think anytime someone is from the place and they're at the dinner table, that is an automatic sort of like favorite moment. Like having somebody who is truly from there is incredible. And sometimes that's a guest, which is great. And sometimes that's the plus one of a guest, which is even better in my mind, because it means that that person kind of like tracked down somebody who is thematically relevant, which is always delightful. And then secondarily, anytime somebody does bring a plus one who I think of as being almost a little bit risky. So, for instance, at the Hawaii dinner, which was the last one, a friend who happens to be a former coworker, and I invited her, and she brought somebody who lives in her neighborhood, who they sort of became friendly because they were just like bumping into each other at the coffee shop once a week, and they got to chatting. And um, I invited her to this dinner, and she invited him along, and they went and got a drink before coming to the dinner, and it was the first time they had ever deliberately planned to get together. Was because of this evening, right? And to me, I'm like, that's already a perfect favorite moment in my mind.
Thank you, Sabina. Now, let's take a moment and think back to a time in your life when you have helped to create a moment that brings people together. It could be setting up a free community fridge and pantry, helping out at a soup kitchen, or hosting a dinner party with new friends. Bring yourself back to that experience. Remember what it feels like to enjoy the company of people of good faith and take a slow breath. All right. See if it feels good now to wiggle your fingers and toes and try to release any tension in your shoulders by holding them up by your ears for a second and then letting them down. Next, I'd like to share a message from our neighbor line here at Neighborful Station. We have a voicemail box where our listeners call in and tell their stories from the real world of neighbors taking great care of them. Tonight's message comes from our friend Bob in Massachusetts.
My name is Bob, and I'm calling from Massachusetts. I've always valued neighbors wherever I've lived, and it was my parents who taught me that we are here to help others. For my son's 5-year-old birthday party, when he was dressing up as Spider-Man for Halloween, I built a climbable spider web between 2 tall pine trees in our yard. This was 20 feet wide and reached up 24 feet tall, and we had technical climbing protection for all participants. While the kids had a great time, I think a lot of the parents had more fun climbing the web. At this party, we met a couple that lived down the road who invited us for soup night. They read an article in Cooking Light magazine about putting a pot of soup on the stove and inviting over your neighbors for potluck dinners. This became our Friday evening routine for many years. There were 8 to 12 families, and the kids enjoyed playing in the yard while the adults unwinded with a cup of soup. This continually expanded with cookouts, hanging a sheet on the line and showing movies outside after dark, and special events including clam bakes and band concerts. Our neighbors built a huge fire pit between their yards for the annual clam bake. We also traveled to friends' vacation homes and enjoyed many wonderful times at Soup Night in Maine on a lake near Portland. We continued this tradition as our kids grew into high school, and then when many of them moved on to continue their education or joined the military. The parents continued meeting and were joined by the children when they could. My son is 27 now, and while many of the families have relocated, Soup Night continues. This wonderful neighborhood tradition has been going on over 22 years, and we are now attending the weddings of the kids who are running around the yard when it first started. Teach your children the value of good neighbors and friends, and you will be blessed for a lifetime.
With Bob's message in mind, take a moment now to think back to a time when one of your neighbors has taken great care of you, especially someone that you may not have known very well. This could be a recent experience, or it could be all the way back in your childhood. Remember what it felt like to know that you were supported when you really needed help, and take a deep breath. Now, let's have one more big stretch together. Tomorrow, we will be back for another edition of Neighborful at Night with a show and tell featuring our friend Isabella, who creates the illustrated episode covers for Neighborful Station. I'm putting a link in the chat now so you can add Thursday's show to your calendar. 1 second, I'll be right there, and there we go. As we come to the end of this gathering, I invite you to stick around as we listen to a sleep edition episode of Neighborful Station. Tonight's episode is called Chili Bowls. You are attending a town-wide dinner at the middle school hosted by the students. The story will play for about 10 minutes, and then the soundscape of the town will continue to fill out a full hour. You might like to let the soundscape play if you're ready for bed, or just to have some peaceful background noise as you take some time away from your screens. If you'd like to set a sleep timer on your device, you can set it right now for 1 hour, and it should switch off just before the soundscape runs out. Note that if you are on your phone or tablet with us tonight, the audio from the broadcast will probably cut out when you switch your apps to set the timer. But we will still be here. Just come back to your browser or the YouTube app after the timer starts running. I want to thank you again for joining us and for taking this opportunity to rest. You are wonderful, just as you are, and you deserve a world that lives up to your goodness. May you find ways to set a table of hospitality and friendship for your neighbors. May you always remember that you are surrounded by the love that has formed you. And may you grant yourself the gift of rest tonight. Thank you, dear friends, and good night. Welcome to the sleep edition of Neighborful Station. At the end of the story, the soundscape will continue to play so that you can fall asleep. Sweet dreams. After a few days of milder weather, winter has returned to Neighborful Station, with a deep chill from Canada arriving on the northwest wind. You step off the tram in front of Ruston Middle School just before sunset, on your way to Chili Bowls, a town-wide dinner hosted by the middle school students. On the steep ridge overhead, you hear blue jays settling deep into the evergreens for the cold night ahead. The last rays of sun are turning the few clouds on the western horizon into blazes of red and orange. You feel the crisp air tracing through your nose as you take an easy breath. On the front lawn of the school, you see Fritz and Anna standing at the center of a circle of stainless steel ovens, supervising a small group of middle schoolers. The heavenly scent of baking bread reaches your nose. Fritz waves you over, calling out, "Hello, you! Would you like to visit our bakery?" As you walk over, you call back, "Yes, of course. What are you making?" Anna smiles and replies, "Everything. Cornbread, sourdough, even some naan." Fritz beckons you into the circle and says, "I built for tonight a tandoor, and it works." You realize that everyone else is only wearing short sleeves because of the heat from the ovens. Your cheeks flush, and you start to feel quite warm in your coat as you tell the group, "This all smells amazing. I'd better get inside and leave you to it." When you step into the main entrance of the school, the lights are dim, and there are pillar candles on tables along the sides of the lobby, giving the room a warm glow. Two students in blazers and jeans, holding computer tablets, greet you as you enter, one of them saying, "Welcome to Chili Bowls. How many in your party?" You answer, "Just one." Someone behind you says, "Make that 4, please." You turn to see Fatima, Ajmal, and Olivia, all beaming at you as they take off their coats. Fatima asks, "We don't want to impose, but will you join us for dinner?" You tell her, "Yes, I'd be delighted. Thank you." One of the students says, "Let's get you seated. Please follow me." The four of you and your host walk down the main hallway of the school, which is lined with lockers interrupted at regular intervals by classroom doors. Like the lobby, this hallway is specially lit for the evening, with colorful Christmas lights weaving through the space overhead. Ajmal murmurs to you, "Mustafa told us they've been decorating for days." Your host stops at the entrance to a classroom and says, "Right this way, please." When you enter the room, you see that it has been arranged with small tables for 2 or 4 people. A vintage typewriter stands in one corner, and rising from it, there is a huge flock of origami birds made from the pages of books. The flock stretches from the corner across the entire room, suspended from the ceiling. You reach up to touch the birds above you, which are swaying gently in a warm breeze from the air vents. You feel the smooth textures and sharp angles of their paper bodies, and you take a deep breath. When the four of you sit down, Moose arrives at the tableside, a huge grin on his face, as he declares, "Good evening, dear neighbors, and welcome to Chili Bowls. Each of the bowls set before you is unique, handmade right here in our pottery studio. We have cooked a range of different chilies tonight, and we will bring 3 of them to the table for you to share, family style. My serving partner tonight is Dia, and she will bring water and the bread service for the table." At this, a South Asian girl appears next to Moose. The two of them glance at each other and then quickly look away, as Dia tucks a lock of her hair behind her ear. Fatima and Ajmal trade a look and some raised eyebrows of their own. Moments later, Moose returns with 3 serving bowls of chili. He announces as he sets them down, "This first one is classic Texas style. The second is Korean with gochujang, and the third is a vegetarian mushuwa, made from my mother's family recipe. We hope you enjoy." He gives a little bow and walks away. Fatima sighs, and her eyes sparkle as she says, "Oh, I didn't know he was doing that. Bon appetit, everyone. Bismillah." Dia returns a moment later bearing a platter full of the breads that have been baking outside. Each of you takes a few things to try, and the table settles into the contented silence of a wonderful meal. You savor the complex spices of the mushuwa, dipping your cornbread to soak up the sauce rich in cumin and garam masala. You watch your dinner companions for a moment as they revel in the feast, and you set down your spoon and your bread, placing both of your hands on your belly as you take a relaxed breath. Olivia coughs quietly to get everyone's attention and tilts her head toward the serving station, where Dia has taken Moose's cell phone and is typing something into it. Moose is blushing furiously. Olivia says, "You know, Chili Bowls was the first time I really noticed Mason. He was just so kind with everyone. I started crushing on him in 7th grade, but I didn't ask him out until last year. It's honestly embarrassing that I waited so long." All 4 of your own phones suddenly chime. A text from Emily reads, "Come celebrate Claire's first birthday with us. Next Saturday at 2 o'clock. Please, no gifts. Will you join us?" As everyone else begins to RSVP, you write back, "Yes, can't wait. But are you sure you don't want me to bring a gift?" Emily responds, "Quite sure. I know it feels weird. Trust me." You and Fatima look up at each other as she says, "No gifts?" Olivia nods vigorously and tells you, "I won't spoil the surprise, but it's a town tradition, and it's one of my favorite things about living here." She glances around the room and says, "Now, I wonder where they're hiding the desserts."